Most people assume something very simple about housing. If home prices are high, more builders should rush in and build more homes, and that should increase the supply and prices should come back down or at least stabilize. And on paper, that makes sense. But in the real world, that's not how the housing supply actually works. In fact, some of the highest priced housing markets are in the same places where the fewest homes get built. And that feels backwards until you understand what actually limits construction. When prices are high, it's usually not because builders aren't interested, it's because the places most people want to live in are already constrained. Land becomes the major problem. In expensive cities, the issue isn't a lack of demand, it's a lack of usable land. The land that does exist is already developed, extremely expensive, or locked behind rules about what can be built and where. So a greater demand for housing doesn't suddenly create new land. They just bid up the limited land that's already available. That means that rising prices, it often reflects scarcity, not opportunity. Even when a builder does find a site, building doesn't start the next week. It's an extremely long process before anything starts to break ground. You have to worry about rezoning, environmental reviews, public hearings, appeals, permits. And each of these steps take a lot of time, and time becomes very expensive for builders. Because while a project is waiting for approval, the builder is already paying interest on the land, carrying costs, having consultants and legal fees, all without earning a single dollar of revenue. All of these costs go towards just being approved to pretty much start building. They're not even costs for the actual build. And all of that delay is a hidden cost in housing that most people don't see. And the longer the delay, the riskier the project becomes. By the time approval finally comes through, the market could be completely different. And financing, it makes this even harder because most housing projects are heavily financed. The builders themselves rely on short-term construction loans that are sensitive to interest rates, and when rates are high or credit tightens, borrowing becomes more expensive and more restrictive. And at the same time, higher interest rates reduce how much buyers can afford, which weakens demand at the end of the project. So builders get hit from both sides. Higher financing costs and more uncertainty about whether buyers will qualify later on. And even with high prices, that risk can be enough to delay or cancel projects. There's also a misunderstanding about builder incentives. Builders don't build just random housing in general. They build specific products that have to make financial sense. Remember, it's a business at the end of the day. So when land, labor, materials, and fees and delays all get more expensive, the minimum price needed to make a project work goes up. And that often pushes builders towards higher end homes, not just more homes in general. And this is why people complain that everything new is just luxury housing. It's not always because builders want to build luxury housing. It's because lower priced homes, there's often not enough margin to cover all of these costs. So high prices don't necessarily increase the number of homes built, they change what gets built. And when you put all of this together, you get this kind of counterintuitive result. Prices rise because supply is constrained, but those same constraints make it harder to add new supply. And when land is scarce and approvals from the government can take years and financing is risky and rate sensitive, builders have to protect their profit margins just to survive. So instead of a flood of new homes, you get delays, cancellations, and projects that are kind of built not for most middle-class Americans, but luxury projects for like rich people. And you can see how this plays out in real life all the time. A developer can find a site that could add 100 homes, and the land can be very expensive because prices are high, and rezoning can take 2 years, and during that time, interest rates can rise, and construction loans can get more expensive, and because interest rates are a lot higher, a lot less people qualify for mortgages, and by the time the project is ready, building entry-level middle-class homes, it doesn't make sense financially. So the developer, he either redesigns the project to target higher income buyers, or he just doesn't build at all. And prices stay high the entire time. But the supply for the middle class never shows up. So this is a key misunderstanding that people need to realize. High prices don't automatically create more homes when supply is inelastic. Instead, they often signal that the system is constrained in ways that price alone can't fix. And until land availability, approval timelines, and financing conditions change, higher prices can coexist with low construction for a very long time. And that's why some of the most expensive housing markets also have the worst housing shortages, and why just build more is much harder than it sounds on paper.